Gunanuvada Shravanam Murare. Gunanuvada Shravanam Murare. Kim va punastag charanaravinda. Kim va punastag charanaravinda. Paraga seva ratiratma labdha. Paraga seva ratiratma labdha. Ashesha sanklesha shamam vidhate. Gunanuvada Shravanam Murare. Kim va punastag charanaravinda. Paraga seva ratiratma labdha. Ashesha sanklesha shamam vidhate. Gunanuvada Shravanam Murare. Kim va punastag charanaravinda. Paraga seva ratiratma labdha. Ratiratma labdha. Vidhatte. Gunanuvada Shravanam Murare. Punastag charanaravinda. Gunanuvada Shravanam Murare. Kim va punastag charanaravinda. Paraga seva gatiratma labdha. Ashesha sanklesha shamam vidhate. Gunanuvada Shravanam Murare. Shravanam Ravinda. Paraga seva ratiratma labdha. Anyone else like to chant? Gunanuvada Shravanam Murare. Kim va punastag charanaravinda. Paraga seva ratiratma labdha. Please repeat word for word. Ashesha, unlimited. Sanklesha, miserable conditions. Shamam, cessation. Vidhate, can perform. Gunanuvada, of the transcendental name. Form, qualities, pastimes. Entourage and paraphernalia, etc. Shravanam, hearing and chanting. Murare, of Murari, Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. Kimva, what to speak of. Punaha, again, tat, his, charana ravinda, lotus feet, paraga seva, to the service of the flavorful dust, ratihi, attraction, atma labdhaha, those who have gained such self-achievement. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Translation. Simply by chanting and hearing of the transcendental name, form, etc. of the personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, one can achieve the cessation of unlimited miserable conditions. Therefore, what to speak of those who have attained attraction for serving the flavor of the dust of the Lord's lotus feet? Purport. Two different methods for controlling the material senses are recommended in the Vedic scriptural wisdom. One of them is the process of jnana, or the path of philosophical understanding of the Supreme Brahma, Paramatma and Bhagavan. The other is that of a direct engagement in the transcendental loving devotional service of the Lord. Of these two most popular methods, the path of devotional service is recommended here as the best because one on the path of devotional service does not have to wait for the attainment of the fruitive results of pious activities or for the results of knowledge. The two stages of executing devotional service are: first, the stage of practicing devotional service with our present senses under the regulations of the recognized scriptures, and second, attaining sincere attachment for serving the particles of the dust of the lotus feet of the Lord. The first stage is called Sadhana Bhakti, or devotional service for the neophyte, which is rendered under the direction of a pure devotee, and the second stage is called Raga Bhakti, in which the mature devotee automatically takes to the various services of the Lord out of sincere attachment. The great sage Maitreya now gives the final answer to all the questions of Vidura. Devotional service to the Lord is the ultimate means to mitigate all the miserable conditions of material existence. The path of knowledge or that of mystic gymnastics may be adopted as a means for the purpose, but unless mixed with bhakti or devotional service, they are unable to avoid the desired result. By practicing sadhana bhakti, one may gradually rise to the point of raga bhakti. And by performing raga bhakti in loving transcendental service, one can even control the supreme powerful Lord. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you for coming for Saturday morning Bhagavatam class. So, very powerful verse in our discussion today. It's quite popular throughout the Bhagavatam, CC. You open books, you will definitely find an explanation or understanding of this verse in various different parts. So there's so much content given throughout our Vedic scriptures that glorifies the transcendental pastimes in name of the Supreme Lord. The importance of chanting and remembering Krishna, right? We start Bhagavatam, we start reading Bhagavatam, right? That's the first thing that we understand or try to understand when we read Bhagavatam. When Shukadev Goswami is describing to Parikshit Maharaj the glories of understanding or reading or listening to the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Murari, Supreme Lord Krishna. So we'll just talk a little on this subject matter. We'll just read the translation again because it's very beautiful. Simply by chanting and hearing of the transcendental name, form, etc. of the Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, one can achieve the cessation of unlimited miserable conditions. Therefore, what to speak of those who have attained attraction for serving the flavor of the dust of the Lord's lotus feet? So, as we know, in the beginning of Bhagavatam, we hear that when the sages of Naimisharanya are performing sacrifices, they're performing Vedic yajnas, and they realize very soon that these yajnas are not going to give us our desired result. Right? We hear in Bhagavatam what happened when they were performing the yajna. They were covered with dust, they were covered with smoke, blackish. So very soon they realized that we need to change. We need to change our course. We need some other action, because in Kali Yuga, nothing works. You know, what's the famous verse we hear? Kale doshanita raja. The very powerful verse that tells us that in Kali Yuga, nothing really works. There's only one good, there's many faults in Kali Yuga, but there's only one good quality. What is that good quality? What is that good quality? That good quality is to chant and remember the Supreme Lord. Just by remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can achieve the highest. Just by chanting the name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can achieve the highest, the topmost result. Right? How beautiful is that? Just by chanting, remembering Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can achieve the highest, most elevated platform. It's amazing, right? We were hearing recently in different classes that how it takes years and years of austerities for perfection by different forms of yogic methods. You know, you can perform, Prabhupada say, gymnastics of doing yogic processes. You know, you can do controlling your breath, or there's so many jnana yoga, dhyana yoga, there's so many different forms of yoga you can practice, ashtanga yoga, but that's not going to work in Kali Yuga because our minds are very disturbed. First of all, that's what we need to understand, right? Because you may be focused devotee, even focused devotees sometimes get affected by the effect of Kali Yuga. But the name, the holy name of Supreme Lord is so powerful, is so pure, that even just by saying little, once, or maybe even not even saying the word properly, even with speaking with faults, the word of Ram or Krishna, one still gets a little benefit, right? So I was reading this in Chaitanya Charitamrita. I've just been reading about the talk between Haridas Thakur and Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya asked Haridas Thakur a question. How are all these yavanas or these fallen people are ever going to be liberated? Right? He's asking, he knows, he has appeared. He's Mahavadanyaya, the most magnanimous. He has appeared in the world to liberate all the fallen souls just by giving them the nectar, or as Prabhupada mentions, let them taste the flavor of the dust of the lotus feet, right, of the Lord. So how beautiful is that, the flavor of the dust, right? We talk about the dust, then Prabhupada's talking about the flavor of the dust. Has anyone ever tasted flavor of dust? You can't even imagine what's the flavor of the dust. You know, when you eat, I remember when I was a kid, when I would go on a holiday, I would go to the beach. I was very young, probably. My brother as well. We both had this problem of eating sand. Or, just put sand in the mouth. And my mother will go furious. She'll come to us and tell us, hey, we'll just chastise us, get the sand out of our mouth because it's going to infect us or something, So there's no taste in this dust of sand, but there's beautiful taste, beautiful flavor. Because we're all about the flavor, right? In Kali Yuga. All we want is the flavor. Sometimes devotees, when they take prasad, sometimes they complain, Prabhu, it lacks flavor. There's not enough flavor in this prasad today. If you don't put salt, there's no taste, there's no flavor. So in Kali Yuga, we are accustomed to flavor. Everything needs to have a flavor. Whatever activities we perform, we try to get that flavor. But in material world, as we all know, the flavor is temporary. There's no real taste, as you can say. There's no real taste in the material sense gratification. The real taste will only come in service or performing devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's the real flavor. So, as I was speaking, Haridas Thakur, is answering to Lord Chaitanya when he asked, because when Lord Chaitanya asked all these Yavanas how they're going to be elevated or how they're going to be liberated, what does Haridas Thakur say? Haridas Thakur says that just by chanting, even if they do it wrongly, because as Lord Chaitanya has used the word Yavanas, which means the most abominable people, who are the most fallen, Yavanas, who are engaged in cow killing. That's what Prabhupada gives translation of Yavanas as the ones who are engaged in cow killing. So they are called Yavanas, the most fallen. So, and if you go to Muslim tradition, there is a word they use as haram, harama, right? Haram. That actually literally Prabhupada translated as most abominable. So harama. And Haridas Thakur is using this as an example. He said even if someone says haram or harama, he gets elevated. He gets a lot of benefit because he has mentioned the syllables of Rama. Now how beautiful is that? He translated Ha as Oh my Lord, and Ram, Oh my, and Ram as Lord, the Supreme Lord. So just by saying, even if you don't mean it, if you're not even saying, Haridas Thakur is mentioning the syllables, not even the word Rama. The syllables of the word Rama or Krishna are so powerful. Just by saying them indirectly, you get the highest benefit. So imagine that. We sometimes often focus on, not chanting with purity, chanting Hare Krishna with offenses. It's not going to work. Sometimes I think like that. I'm keep on chanting with offenses, but it's not going to, it's because I need to chant without offenses to get the best result. But that doesn't mean we should just give up chanting. That's why Haridas Thakur is clearly mentioning there will be faults, there will be offenses while chanting the Hare Krishna mantra or chanting the names of the Lord. But one should not think that because I'm chanting with offenses, I should just stop chanting because I'm never going to get the benefit. That's why Haridas Thakur is mentioning just by chanting like this, you still get the highest, you still get some very valuable result. So what to speak of when you chant with full attention? Imagine that, right? When we chant with offenses, there's so much benediction we get from the Supreme Lord. Imagine what will happen when we chant without offenses. We actually know the pastimes where devotees have chanted without offenses. Now we know the pastime of Ajamil. He was a sincere devotee, but then he fell down because of material attachments. As I said, Maya is quite strong, so it can get to the best of us. So that doesn't mean we give up our practice. Like for example, Ajamil was just focused on now material affairs after falling down and being married to a woman. Oh, not married, just taking shelter of a woman. So this is a situation can happen to the most of the best of us, but that doesn't mean we should stop chanting. Even though Ajamil stopped chanting, what happened? At the time of death, what happened at the time of death? He wasn't thinking of Krishna at all, which is the goal of life. And he knows that, which is the goal of life, because he's so attached to the family. What he did, he chanted the name of Vasudeva, even though he wasn't thinking of the Supreme Lord Vasudeva. Narayan. Narayan. I'm thinking of Vasudeva today. So he chanted the holy name of Narayan, right? Narayan. And what happened when he chanted the word Narayan? Even though he was addressing to his son, Narayan, right? Whose name is Narayan. And what happened? The Vishnu Dutas came to give all protection for him to go to, to the hellish condition. And Vishnu Dutas protected him. So this is the purity. He didn't even chant it, but he chanted sincerely, Vasudeva, though it wasn't addressed towards Narayan. I'll keep saying Vasudeva, don't I? Well, what can we do? So Narayan, he chanted the word Narayan. So we should all chant Narayan or Krishna. Even though, constantly chant. Even if we don't mean it. Even if we don't have any love for Narayan. But we should keep on chanting Narayan or Krishna. Like you can do any time. Throughout the day you can keep doing it, And one day, whenever death comes, because we don't know when the death is going to come. It can come any second, it can come any minute. It can come in 5 years, 10 years. The way things are going can probably come very soon. Outside in Kali Yuga, so nobody knows. So that's why we constantly engage ourselves in chanting of the holy names. Because holy name is very pure. We remember there's a beautiful verse mentioned in Padma Purana. Name Chintamani Krishna Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purna Shuddha Nitya Mukto. Purna Shuddha Nitya Mukto Abhinatvam Nama Namino. A very beautiful verse. It's one of my favorite verses to recall, to remember all the time. What does it mean? It says Nitya Mukto. Purna Shuddha Nitya Mukto means completely pure and eternally liberated. There's no material qualities in the name, form, pastimes of the Supreme Lord. There's nothing material about it. There's no tinge of material. It's all spiritual, 100% spiritual. Like many times when we buy a product in the market, right? It says 100% recycled or 100% pure, But we know in Kali Yuga, it cannot be 100%. There's always some fault. Because as we just discussed, there's always faults in Kali Yuga. There's a full of fault. It cannot be 100% pure. There's always got to be some contamination in there. So this is what we hear in Kali Yuga. But Krishna's name or Krishna's pastimes are totally eternal. There's no whatsoever tinge of material contamination. 100% spiritual. So as soon as we chant the Lord's name or discuss the pastimes of the Lord, the bliss we feel is also 100%, guess what? Spiritual. 100% spiritual when we chant the name. But we don't feel it, right? It's quite funny, right? We hear this, that Krishna's name is 100% spiritual. So when we chant the name of Krishna, why don't we feel that 100% spiritual bliss constantly? Why is that? Anyone would like to answer this question? Why don't we feel the spiritual bliss? Yes, Prabhu. Offenses, yes. Because we're not chanting with purity. Even though Krishna's name is pure, but we are not chanting Krishna's name with purity. So we don't get that 100% bliss. Right? So what should one do to get that 100% bliss? What should one do? Anyone would like to answer? What should one do to get that 100% bliss of Krishna's holy name? So this is beautifully mentioned by Haridas Thakur. Like after this, when Lord Chaitanya hears this answer from Haridas Thakur, he questions, he's very pleased with this answer from a devotee. And then he answers this, he asks another question. He said, then what about the trees and the plants and the moving and the non-moving? What about the non-moving one? We hear about the moving one, right? Because when they chant, even with impurity, they will get the highest result. Well, not the highest result, they'll get good result. To come to a platform so they can get the highest result. But what about the trees, the plants and grass, or all mountains, all these non-moving? How are they going to be liberated? Because they're also jivas, right? They're also existing. How are they going to be moved? How are they going to be elevated? And then what does Haridas Thakur say? You have appeared to liberate everything, not just the moving, even the non-moving. When they hear you chanting the Hare Krishna mantra or the Hari Hari or the glories of the Supreme Lord, they also get elevated. They also come to a platform where they can come and chant Hare Krishna and get elevated. So it's very powerful, right? It's very powerful. I remember once we were out on Harinam in New Zealand, in Wellington, and one of the leaders, who was leading the Harinam Kirtan, and we were just going past the streets, and all of a sudden, we were on the way going back to our ashram, and he decided to take a little shortcut, and he goes through a dead parking area. There's no people. There's only cars parked there. There's hardly people. And everyone's just chanting Hare Krishna, and everyone's wondering, why is he going from this? Just go from the street where people can hear the chanting. And he's going from a car park where there's only cars and there's no person around whatsoever. So he's just going chanting through the car park. Imagine it, there's no people to hear. So a lot of devotees are wondering, what's the point of chanting here? And then when we stopped later, we discussed this. Our senior devotee discussed this. There's no loss or diminution in chanting Hare Krishna. Even if you're doing in front of cars, the cars are getting the benefit. Don't worry about it. Whoever's getting the benefit. And funnily, this is the funny part of the story, there was one person in that car park who heard this chanting. And he came to Bhakti Lounge and told us, you guys were just going through the car park chanting something and I heard this. And then he came to our preaching program. So you see that? You see the arrangement? Just no one was there. Everyone was wondering, but one person still got the benefit one way or another. So the benefit will always be there of chanting Hare Krishna. We may see it or we may not see it, right? Sometimes when we are chanting constantly, we don't realize that there is a benefit we are getting of chanting Krishna's name or discussing Krishna's pastimes. Sometimes we don't see the result, because we are very result-oriented, right? That's how we are trained from the very young age, right? To get results, everything has to be result-oriented. Like, for example, when I would go to school, if I would not get good grades in my exams, my parents would be very displeased. There's no results. And sometimes my father would say, why am I wasting so much money on you? Why don't you just go do what a cobbler does or something, so that's, just stop wasting my money. There's no result. I don't see any result. You're very foolish. You cannot be trained. And I wouldn't care. I just want to do whatever I want to do. So this result oriented. If you go work in a company, there are targets, there's bonuses. If you want to get a bonus, if you want to keep getting paid, you have to show the result. You have to show that you're doing something productive. You're bringing, like when I used to work in advertising, we would have targets, right? We would have set targets that you must have to bring this much business in the company. Otherwise, what's the point of paying you? You're totally useless to the company. What's the point if you're not bringing the business? So the result-oriented mentality is always there in Kali Yuga. Everyone wants not just results anymore. There used to be a time when it was result-oriented mentality, but now we are quick, instant result-oriented mentality. That's the worst of all, right? I was sharing this example, like how there was a time when we would write letters to people, right? It would take very long time, a month, few months, 3 months, 6 months. Sometimes the letter would get misplaced and people don't know if it's coming or not coming. So it would take a long time and people were very patiently waiting, right? There was good patience back then. But then things changed and we advanced in the name of technology. And then we created emails and messages, instant messages. Now we are at a place where we have to see that person typing. Imagine that. We're not even that patient that we wait for that person to reply. No, I have to see him typing, that person. I can't wait. It's too quick. I need right now. I need some sense gratification. If I see that person typing, then only when I'm relaxed, I'm like, okay, he's typing, so I don't have to worry. He's going to say something now. So this is the way the society is going. There's no patience. So the point I was trying to make is that we have to understand when we are doing a process, it's going to give us the result in due course of time. But we have to be patient, right? Our acharyas have clearly specified this. Rupa Goswami mentions in Nectar of Instruction very clearly. What's the verse? Dharyat. He mentions the word Dharyat. Is it the third one or the fourth one? The third one. I think it's the third one. The third verse. He mentions Utsahan Nishchaya Dhairyat. Utsahan, determination or enthusiasm. Nishchaya means determination and patience. That's the three main tools that we need to always remember if we want to advance in spiritual activity. Sometimes I use this even in material context. Because material context, we often hear about this. You have to be patient, you have to be determined, and you have to have that enthusiasm to be the greatest or achieve your desired goal. But if we put so much effort in the material context, why do we neglect these three crucial aspects in the spiritual side? Why do we see that I need the result right now, otherwise I think I'm just wasting my time and I'll try to do something else? Why do we see that? I remember my Gurudev was giving an example of, I think there was the CEO of Qantas or some airlines, I can't remember the name of the exact airlines. Was it Qantas? Someone who started from the post of what? Was it Qantas? Virgin Airlines, sorry. So someone who started from the post of what? A mailman in the company. After 40 years of hard work in sticking around the company, he was able to become on the top position, the topmost position of the company. So it takes a lot of patience, 40 years of hard work. But then why do we want to see instant result when we are chanting the Hare Krishna mantra? Why do we think just by chanting a few times we should be free of offenses? No, it takes time. It takes energy, it takes patience to get to that platform where we'll be able to chant the Hare Krishna mantra without offenses. So Prabhupada is saying in this purport, very clearly mentioning that he has translated in the translation that Sri Krishna, one can achieve the cessation of unlimited miserable condition. So as we know, we are in a miserable state, affected by birth, death, old age, and disease. That's a very miserable state to be, right? Has anyone ever thought about that? Or is it just me? Yeah. Sometimes I think how bad it is because I've had some health troubles. It's a very painful situation when you go through some health troubles. So you just wonder, what's the point of, taking so much pain again and again? Because this body is meant to give pain and suffering, right? That's why we have taken this form of body, because we wanted to enjoy the pain. So, well, it's crazy how we have taken this body, but we know that's why we have this knowledge. So, Haridas Thakur is saying to Lord Chaitanya that Krishna's name is like the sun. Just a little bit of sun can dissipate all darkness. It doesn't have to be fully. When the morning comes, sun is not at its fullest. Just we know the sun is there because we can see the light, right, in the morning. Even though the sun is not shining bright. But just a little, when the sun starts coming, darkness is gone. Just a little bit of sun can remove all darkness. So similarly, just by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra or chanting the holy names of Lord, even a little bit, even we do once, we get the highest benefit. The darkness is gone. The process has started. That's how we should understand it. The process of purification has started. Just even if we chant once, like for example, Ajamil, as I was saying, just by chanting once, what did he get? The highest. He got a position, he got a platform where he can now purify and go back to personality of Godhead. It's not like he went straight, back to Vrindavan, Goloka Vrindavan. No, he got an opportunity. So we should seize that opportunity. Every time we chant Hare Krishna, we should think of it as an opportunity to purify and get the highest result. So just by constantly chanting Hare Krishna, we can go back to Goloka Vrindavan. It's a simple process, right? Just by chanting Hare Krishna, you get to go back to Goloka Vrindavan. And don't worry about performing yagyas or sacrifices, meditating for thousands of years, closing your eyes, living in the forest. Nothing. Just chant. Enjoy the temple. Eat. Chant. Nice prasad. Read. Read with devotees. Dance with devotees. How beautiful is that? People outside, I was speaking to a friend. This is a true story. I was just speaking to a friend. Old friend, like he's a karmi, right? He's not practicing devotee. I was just speaking to him, just catching up in good old days. I was just speaking to him like, he was something I was speaking, and then the subject matter came, what I'm doing, how he talks about his realization, his understanding of Hare Krishna is why they're always jumping and dancing and singing. Like, how, what is this life, what is it all about? Why do you do this constantly? What's the constant process of jumping, dancing? Just be peaceful. I'm like, I remember you as a kid. You used to love dancing and singing. What happened? Then he actually told me that, somewhere he grew up. He thought it's not nice to just be randomly go out on the street and dance and, sing. People will call him fool. People will call him a mental or a crazy person. Look what he's doing. He's out on the street just expressing himself. So he can't do it. He doesn't feel that anymore. That he has the power or the potency to do it, to just go on the street randomly and start jumping up and down. It's just, he's scared of what people will think of him. But that's why when I said, that's when the devotees go, we don't care what people will think. Instead, a lot of people do like it. They do appreciate it. When we go on Harinam, we see so many people just come up and, express themselves, participate in dancing and singing. So, Krishna's name is very pure. Even when we sing outside on Harinam, everyone's getting the benefit. Living, non-living doesn't matter. If you go in a jungle and chant Hare Krishna on Harinam, even the trees will get the highest result. But the great part is that when we hear the chanting from a pure devotee, that's the best. That's the highest ecstatic love. As I was usually give the example, when Prabhupada went to the West, he didn't have anything else other than the chanting, other than the taste of the holy name. He just sitting under a tree in a park, chanting Hare Krishna mantra, because he's a pure devotee. So many people felt that connection, right? So that's the purity we're looking for. When someone asks us, how do we know that this chanting will ever going to produce result? We give the example of pure devotees who have chanted sincerely. And they have been able to cultivate the bhakti, the seed of bhakti in the heart of so many people just by their sincere chanting, right? Because they have tasted. And when the person who has tasted the love of the holy name, he can share it with others, right? And we know this from Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, the one who has seen the truth can show you the truth, right? What's the verse? Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadeshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattva darshana. Jnaninas tattva darshana. The one who has seen the truth can show you the way, can show you the light. So similarly, even when talking about Haridas Thakur, he's just simply chanting in front of Tulsi Maharani. He's there. He's sitting in his house chanting the Hare Krishna mantra very sincerely, 300,000 rounds. Imagine doing that. We'll be tired and exhausted. So we should not compare or try to do. But we should follow the process given to us by our Acharya. Right? So this great example of Haridas Thakur. He was sincerely chanting throughout the day because he has tasted the holy name. Everyone knows that. And there was a envious person, Ramachandra Khan, that was his name? Ramachandra Khan, the envious person, who sent a female adult worker to, make Haridas Thakur fell down from his position. He had devised a very beautiful plan in his mind. He's like, I know Haridas, people constantly chant his glories, but no one in this world can, deny a beautiful woman or a young man can deny the attraction of a beautiful lady. So what does he do? He hires the best looking female worker and sends her to Haridas Thakur. And that female lady comes, and what does she do? The first thing, what does she do? She pays obeisances to Tulsi Maharani. Yeah, that's in the past part. You should read that. It's very beautiful how the adult worker comes and pays obeisances to Tulsi Maharani. So she's already performed devotional service. Right there. Look, just by paying obeisances to a pure devotee, she has performed a beautiful service. But this is 500 years ago, not too far long. So, but now when we see people, we don't pay obeisances to anyone. Why should we do this? More Kali Yuga is just going more extreme and extreme. So she paid obeisances to Tulsi Maharani, so she got the benefit When Haridas Thakur saw her paying obeisances, she was going to get liberated, because first of all, she has performed devotional service, and then he's associating with the pure devotee. So there's two main items ticked on the box. There's no way she's not going to be liberated. So she sits there throughout the day, throughout the night. She appears in the night, right? So she spends all night, and she said to Haridas Thakur, look, I'm very interested. You're a very young, beautiful, handsome man. I'm very interested in associating with you. And Haridas Thakur said, definitely, you're going to get what you came here for. Right? So just wait. But I have taken a vow, I've taken an oath to chant a minimum amount of number of rounds this month. So I'm on my target. Let me finish my chanting, and then I will spend time with you. And she's like, yeah, that's all right. How much is he going to chant? Maybe another hour, 2 hours, 3 hours tops, then I'll get what I want, So she's thinking like that, and she's just waiting, patiently waiting, and Haridas Thakur goes on chanting. But the chanting never finishes, because it's unlimited chanting. So then the next morning, it's almost morning now, and Haridas Thakur says, look, I'm still running a bit behind, but I'm sure by tonight I'll be able to finish my quota. So why don't you come later? Yeah, next day. Come next day. Tonight. Come in the later part of the day. So they said, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, why not? So she goes back to and informs Ramachandra Khan that I'll get him today. Don't worry. Yesterday was good. Today I'll get him. All done. All sorted. So she plans this, and she goes next day, pays obeisances to Tulsi Maharani, and then sits. And Haridas Thakur says, I'm almost there. You just be more patient, little more patient, and then I'll get you what you want. And they say, yeah, okay, fine, I get it. She's sitting there. Haridas Thakur starts chanting again. Now, just by little association of that day, what we see, she's also chanting Hari Hari, right? She's also chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, or Hari Hari, whatever Haridas Thakur was chanting. So she's also chanting it now. So she's getting influenced. She's getting affected by the association of Haridas Thakur. And what happens overnight? Just overnight, what happens? She has a realization. She thinks that I'm engaged in the most abominable activities. And she takes shelter of Haridas Thakur, just because he was chanting with purity. He didn't even say anything else. He didn't even try to preach anything else. You should give up this activities, or, you should do like this, or you should take part like this, come do some service at the temple. Nothing else he preached. He just chanted Hare Krishna, and he made a devotee. Right? So see the power, the potency of the Hare Krishna mantra, or the name of the Supreme Lord. So we should try to taste this transcendental sound vibration. Not just in the name, but in the syllables of the Hare Krishna mantra. So we should try to pay our due attention, try to act in a way that we are able to sincerely chant. Because when we do sincerely chant, the people can see it. When we see our Gurudev or our Acharyas, when we hear their chanting, many devotees, when they're trying to go to sleep, they put Prabhupada on, or when they're feeling a bit low, they put some chanting on from Prabhupada or from their Gurudev. So this is the point. When we hear a pure devotee chant, we are automatically affected. We can see it. We can see there's a difference in our chanting and the pure devotee chanting. So Prabhupada is mentioning in the purport that we should not give up. We are in the neophyte stage. It's difficult. It takes time to come to the stage of purity. We should constantly engage ourselves in our senses so we can come to that platform. So this is something I wanted to discuss today, and we're almost time. If there's any questions, comments, corrections. Anyone? All right. We'll finish here. Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanandi.